Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can spark the biggest changes. But what happens when innocence and hope collide with cold, unfeeling rules? This is the story of an 8-year-old girl with a dream, her loving grandmother, and a bake sale that was supposed to bring joy, but ended in heartbreak. What unfolded left a community shaken and a nation asking, how far will we go to protect what's right? Before we dive into today's story, let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching this video from? We'd love to hear from you. It was supposed to be a day filled with smiles and laughter, a day when one little girl's dream of making a difference would inspire her entire neighborhood. 8-year-old Emily was a bright, kind-hearted child with a passion for helping others. Ever since she could remember, she loved animals. Every stray cat or injured bird she encountered in her small town became her mission to rescue. But today, Emily wasn't just dreaming of helping animals, she was taking action. Emily had spent weeks planning this bake sale. She had begged her grandma for help, and together they'd spent hours in the kitchen baking tray after tray of cookies, brownies, and cupcakes. Chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, snickerdoodles, you name it, they had it. Each treat was made with love, and every sprinkle and swirl of frosting was placed with care. Emily's grandma, Margaret, was her biggest supporter. At 72, she wasn't as quick on her feet as she used to be, but there was nothing she wouldn't do for her granddaughter, and this bake sale meant the world to her too. It wasn't just about cookies or raising money, it was about teaching Emily that no act of kindness was too small. Margaret had always believed in the power of community, and she knew this bake sale was an opportunity to bring people together for a good cause. They'd worked late into the night to make sure everything was perfect. Emily insisted on staying up to decorate each cupcake herself, even though her little hands were tired. Margaret had warned her not to overdo it, but Emily only smiled and said, "Grandma, the animals are counting on me." And how could Margaret argue with that kind of determination? This wasn't just any bake sale. For Emily, it was the start of something bigger. The money raised today would go to the local animal shelter, where dozens of stray dogs and cats were waiting for food, medicine, and a chance at a better life. Emily had visited the shelter before. She'd seen the sad eyes of the animals behind the cages, and it broke her heart. That's when she decided she had to do something, and today she was doing it. The neighborhood quickly rallied around Emily's mission. Friends, family, and even strangers stopped by to show their support. "These cookies are delicious," someone exclaimed. Another neighbor added, "It's so inspiring to see someone so young doing something so selfless." Every kind word made Emily's heart swell with pride, and every dollar added to the donation jar felt like a step closer to helping the animals she loved so much. In that moment, Emily wasn't just a little girl selling baked goods. She was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest hands could make a difference. Her grandma watched from the side, her heart full of pride. Margaret had always believed that kindness was contagious, and today she saw that belief come to life. This was the kind of day that reminded people of the good in the world. A simple act of kindness, a child's determination, and the community coming together, it was enough to make anyone believe in the power of love and compassion. For Emily, it felt like a dream come true, and for her grandma, it was a memory she'd cherish forever. But sometimes even the purest intentions can be met with unexpected challenges. What started as a perfect day for Emily and her grandma was about to take a turn no one could have foreseen. Word spread quickly. What had started as a small bake sale in a quiet driveway was now turning into something much bigger. Cars slowed down as they passed by, and people couldn't help but stop to see the excitement. Emily's bake sale had become the talk of the neighborhood, and for all the right reasons. People weren't just buying cookies, they were buying into Emily's dream. They saw her passion, her determination, and her belief that even a little kindness could make a big difference, and they wanted to be a part of it. Before long, it wasn't just Emily and her grandma running the show. The neighborhood kids jumped in to help, carrying trays of cookies to people waiting in line. They laughed and joked with one another, their energy infectious. For them, it wasn't just about the cookies, it was about being a part of something special. It was incredible to see. The bake sale wasn't just raising money, it was bringing people together. For one sunny afternoon, strangers became friends, neighbors became allies, and the entire community rallied around a little girl with a big heart. Margaret had always believed in the strength of community, but even she couldn't have imagined this. She saw how Emily's kindness was sparking something in everyone around her. Something bigger than cookies, bigger than money. It was a reminder of what could happen when people came together for a common purpose. And then the story grew even bigger. A local news station had heard about Emily's bake sale and decided to cover it. Cameras rolled as Emily explained her mission to help the animals at the shelter. Her voice was soft but steady, her words full of passion. "They just need a little help," she said, "and I can help them." The news crew captured every moment, the laughter, the smiles, the generosity of the community. Emily's bake sale was no longer just a neighborhood event. It was a story of hope, kindness, and the power of one little girl's dream to make a difference. People came not just for the cookies, but for the cause. They wanted to contribute, to be a part of something meaningful, and every time someone dropped a bill or a coin into the jar, Emily's face lit up. Her dream of helping the animals was becoming a reality, one cookie at a time. Even the youngest members of the community wanted to help. A little boy brought his piggy bank, emptying every last coin into the jar. "It's for the animals," he said, smiling shyly at Emily. In that moment, it was clear. This wasn't just about one person's dream, it was about something bigger, something that brought out the best in everyone. For hours, the bake sale was a celebration of kindness, a reminder of what a community could achieve when they came together. It felt like nothing could go wrong. But sometimes life has a way of changing everything in an instant. And just as the community was at its brightest, something unexpected happened. The sound of a car engine broke through the laughter. A police car pulled up, its lights flashing faintly. At first, no one thought much of it. Maybe they were just stopping by to buy cookies too. But what happened next would leave everyone stunned. It was a picture-perfect day. Emily's bake sale was a roaring success. She had done it. Her dream of raising money to help the animals was coming true. Friends, neighbors, and even complete strangers had rallied behind her, showing their support in ways she never could have imagined. But as the saying goes, sometimes the brightest moments cast the darkest shadows. And then, out of nowhere, trouble arrived. A police car pulled up to the curb, its flashing lights cutting through the warmth of the day. At first, no one thought much of it. Maybe they were just here to check things out, or even buy some cookies. But as the officers approached, their stern expressions said otherwise. Emily's excitement turned to confusion as the officers approached. She had never been in trouble before. What could they possibly want? Margaret, ever the guardian, could sense that something wasn't quite right. She stepped forward to meet them, her kind demeanor hiding the worry growing in her chest. Officer told, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you have a permit for this bake sale?" A permit? Margaret couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was a little girl's bake sale, not a business. It was for charity, for the animals. Surely they didn't need a permit for something so small, so innocent. Margaret told, "A permit?" "Officer, this is just a child's bake sale. Emily's raising money for the local animal shelter. It's not a business, it's just cookies." Officer told, I understand, ma'am, but it's still considered a public event. Without a permit, this bake sale is in violation of city regulations. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. The cheerful buzz of the crowd began to fade as confusion rippled through the gathering. A violation for cookies? People exchanged glances, murmurs of disbelief spreading like wildfire. Margaret told, she's 8 years old. She's selling cookies for charity. Surely there's no harm in that. But the officers didn't back down. Rules were rules, they said. Regulations were regulations. It didn't matter that Emily was a child or that her bake sale was for a good cause. To them, it was a matter of enforcement. Neighbor told, come on, officers, this is ridiculous. She's just a kid trying to do something good. Another neighbor told, is this really worth shutting down? It's not like she's hurting anyone. The crowd rallied behind Emily, their voices filled with disbelief and anger. They couldn't understand why something so innocent, so pure, was being treated like a crime. Margaret told, please, officers, she's worked so hard for this. Can't you let it slide, just this once? Visual, the camera focuses on the officers, their faces conflicted but unmoving. The first officer sighs and shakes his head. Officer told, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have to follow procedure. This bake sale needs to be shut down. And just like that, the joyful day started to crumble. The officers began dismantling the bake sale stand. Their actions met with protests from the crowd. Margaret tried to intervene, her voice trembling with emotion as she pleaded for them to stop. It was a heartbreaking sight. Emily's dream, her hard work, her kindness, everything was being torn apart in front of her eyes. And worse, the very people meant to protect the community were the ones causing the pain. What began as a perfect day, a day filled with hope, generosity, and love, was unraveling before everyone's eyes. Emily's bake sale, her dream of helping the animals, was being torn apart piece by piece. And for what? A permit? A piece of paper that no one, not even her kind-hearted grandmother, knew they needed? Emily told, please, don't take it away, I just want to help the animals. Margaret had always been a kind soul, the kind of woman who believed in playing by the rules, in treating everyone with respect. But now, as she looked at her granddaughter's tear-streaked face, something inside her snapped. She couldn't just stand by and watch this happen. Margaret told, enough, she's just a little girl. Is this really how you want to spend your time, destroying a child's dream? What harm is she doing by selling a few cookies for charity? Even the officers seemed torn. One stood rigid, clinging to the rules, while the other glanced at Emily with visible discomfort. But rules, they said, were rules. Procedures had to be followed, no matter how much they hurt. Bystander told, this is wrong. She's just a kid trying to do something good. You're really going to shut her down over some ridiculous regulation? Shame on you. The crowd wasn't going to stay silent. They'd watched Emily pour her heart into this bake sale, and they couldn't believe the scene unfolding before them. Phones were raised, recording every moment. The officers were no longer just shutting down a bake sale. They were facing an entire community. Emily told, did I do something wrong, Grandma? Why are they so mad at me? Margaret told, no, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. You were trying to help, and that's the most important thing. Don't ever forget that. She's just a child. All she wanted was to do something good. And instead of supporting her, you're tearing her down. Is this really the message you want to send? That kindness doesn't matter? Younger officer told, ma'am, I understand how this looks, but we have to follow city regulations. If we make an exception here, we'll be expected to make exceptions everywhere. The officers' attempt to justify their actions only made things worse. The crowd grew louder, their frustration spilling over. What should have been a peaceful resolution was turning into something much more volatile. Margaret told, don't you dare touch that. That money isn't yours to take, it's for the animals. Margaret wasn't going to let them take another piece of Emily's dream. She stood firm, her voice unwavering, even as the officers stared her down. The crowd grew silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. Emily told, "Please, don't take it. The animals need it more than I do." Younger officer told, "Maybe we should." First officer told, "No exceptions. We're shutting this down." The tension reached a boiling point. What started as a simple bake sale had turned into a battleground between rules and compassion, and as the officers stood their ground, the crowd refused to back down. Something had to give, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. The air was thick with tension. What had started as a simple bake sale, a little girl's dream to help animals, had turned into chaos. Emily's cookies were no longer the center of attention. Now it was a battle between a child's innocence, a grandmother's fierce love, and the unyielding grip of authority. But no one, not the crowd, not the officers, not even Emily, could have predicted what would happen next. Margaret told, "That's enough, you've done enough damage already. This is my granddaughter's bake sale, not some criminal enterprise. You're not taking another thing from her." Margaret's words rang out like a challenge. She wasn't just standing up for Emily, she was standing up for kindness, for justice, for everything the bake sale had come to represent. But the officer didn't see it that way. To him, it was just another rule to enforce. And in that moment, the fragile balance of the scene began to tip. Margaret told, "Don't you dare, that money is for the shelter, it's not yours to take." Neighbor told, "Leave them alone, she's a child, for crying out loud." Another neighbor told, "Is this really worth it? You're just making fools of yourselves." The crowd's frustration boiled over. They couldn't stand by and watch anymore. Phones were raised, recording every second, capturing the injustice unfolding before them. But even as the voices grew louder, the officers didn't back down. Younger officer told, "Maybe we should stop. This is getting out of hand." First officer told, "Ma'am, if you don't step aside, you'll leave us no choice." Margaret told, "You already made your choice the moment you decided to crush a little girl's dream. I'm not moving. Do your worst." Margaret's words hung in the air like a challenge. The officer hesitated, his authority clashing with the raw determination of a grandmother defending her granddaughter. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The unthinkable happened. Margaret fell. The woman who had stood so strong, so proud, for her granddaughter collapsed to the ground. For a moment, everything stopped. The crowd froze, their voices caught in their throats. Even the officers seemed stunned. Emily told, "Grandma, are you okay? Please, get up." Younger officer told, "Mom, are you hurt? Let me help you." Margaret told, "I'm okay, sweetheart. Don't cry. Grandma's fine." But Margaret wasn't fine. The pain in her arm, the strain in her voice, it was clear that the fall had taken its toll. And as Emily sobbed into her grandmother's lap, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Neighbor told, "You've gone too far. She's an old woman. How could you let this happen?" Another neighbor told, "She was just standing up for her granddaughter. Do you even have hearts?" The community that had once rallied in joy was now united in outrage. The officers had crossed a line, and there was no going back. What should have been a day of celebration had turned into a scene of heartbreak and chaos. For Emily, the bake sale was no longer about the animals. It was about her grandmother, the woman who had been her biggest supporter, her rock, her hero. And now, as Margaret sat injured on the ground, Emily's heart broke in a way no child should ever experience. The chaos that had erupted during Emily's bake sale had left a painful mark on the community. The joyful afternoon of laughter and generosity had transformed into a scene of heartbreak and fear. As the paramedics rushed to assess Margaret, a heavy silence fell over the crowd, punctuated only by the sounds of sirens and whispered prayers. Emily told Grandma, "Please don't go. I need you. You're going to be okay, right?" Margaret told, "I'm right here, sweetheart. I'll be okay. You just keep being brave for me, all right?" Margaret's voice was filled with love, but Emily could hear the pain beneath it. The fear in her grandmother's eyes mirrored her own. At that moment, everything they'd worked for, the bake sale, the donations, their dreams of helping the animals, seemed to hang in the balance. And the harsh reality was that none of it felt worth it if they couldn't be together. Younger officer told Emily, "I'm so sorry for what happened. I know this is hard, but your grandma is going to get the help she needs." The crowd stood in shock, grappling with the events that had just unfolded. They had come together to support a little girl's dream, and instead they had witnessed the unthinkable. The bake sale that had brought them together was now a painful memory, a reminder of how quickly joy could turn to sorrow. Neighbor told, "This is unacceptable." Those officers had no right to treat them like that. "We need to do something," woman told. "We can't let this slide. We need to stand up for Emily and her grandma. They deserve justice." And with those words, a fire ignited within the crowd. The sense of community that had been so vibrant during the bake sale now transformed into a unified call for justice. They weren't just fighting for Emily and her grandmother, they were fighting against the injustice that had unfolded before their eyes. Social media became their weapon. They shared the videos of the incident, their outrage spilling onto platforms where their voices could be heard. Hashtags began to trend, calling for accountability and justice for Margaret and Emily. The community that had once been so small now found its voice echoing far beyond their neighborhood. "Emily, we're so sorry this happened. You did nothing wrong. You're so brave for standing up for what you believe in," Emily told. "But I just wanted to help the animals. Now my grandma is hurt and it's all my fault." Emily's voice was barely a whisper, but it resonated with the crowd. They could see the weight of responsibility resting on her tiny shoulders, and it broke their hearts. This was a child who had only wanted to do good, and now she was grappling with the fallout of events far beyond her control. Neighbor told, "It's not your fault, Emily. You're a hero for trying to help. We're going to make sure your grandma gets the care she needs. You're not alone." In that moment, the community rallied around Emily, wrapping her in a cocoon of love and support. They reminded her that her intentions had been pure and that she had sparked something beautiful, even in the face of tragedy. Together, they would fight to ensure that justice prevailed. Their voices echoed down the street, a powerful reminder that in moments of darkness, communities could rise together. They would not allow the actions of a few to dim the light of a child's hope. And as they rallied, they knew they were not just fighting for Emily and Margaret, they were fighting for the very essence of kindness and compassion that had brought them all together in the first place. Hours had passed since the bake sale, but the pain of the day still lingered. Margaret's injuries weren't life-threatening, but the emotional toll was written all over Emily's face. The little girl, who had once proudly sold cookies for a cause, now sat silently, questioning everything that had happened. Emily told, "Grandma, I just wanted to help, but now you're hurt and everyone's mad. Was it all my fault?" Margaret told, "Sweetheart, none of this is your fault. What you did today was brave and so full of love. Don't let anyone take that away from you. The world needs more people like you, Emily." Margaret's words were a balm for Emily's aching heart, but they couldn't erase the events of the day. The bake sale was supposed to inspire hope, not end in heartbreak, and yet, as they sat together in that small hospital room, neither of them could have imagined just how far their story had already spread. What had started as a small neighborhood event had now become a national story. The videos of Emily's tearful pleas, Margaret's fall, and the community's outrage had gone viral, sparking a wave of empathy and anger across the country. Strangers from all walks of life rallied behind Emily and her grandmother, their voices joining the chorus demanding justice. Neighbor told, "This isn't over. We're going to show Emily and Margaret that their kindness wasn't in vain. Let's finish what they started." And the community did just that. Determined to make things right, they came together to rebuild what had been taken from Emily, but this time it wasn't just a bake sale, it was a movement. The community's response was bigger than anyone could have imagined. What began as one little girl's bake sale had grown into a nationwide effort. People showed up in droves, not just to buy cookies, but to stand in solidarity with Emily and her grandmother. Together, they raised thousands of dollars for the animal shelter, far surpassing Emily's original goal. Emily told Grandma, "All these people came to help." Margaret told, "That's what happens when you believe in kindness, sweetheart. It spreads like wildfire." It was a moment Emily would never forget, proof that even in the face of cruelty and hardship, kindness could prevail. For every broken heart, there were 100 hands willing to help put it back together, and for every act of injustice, there were countless voices ready to fight for what was right. Emily told, "I just wanted to help the animals. I didn't know so many people would care, but I'm happy because now we can help even more animals, and my grandma says that's what really matters." Emily's dream didn't just survive, it thrived. What could have been a story of heartbreak became a story of resilience, of community, and of the unyielding power of kindness. And while Margaret still carried the scars of that day, both she and Emily knew that their actions had sparked something far greater than a bake sale. In the end, it wasn't about the cookies or the money, it was about the love behind it all, the bond between a little girl and her grandmother, the generosity of a community, and the simple truth that one act of kindness can change the world. Emily's bake sale may have been crushed, but her spirit remained unbroken, and that, more than anything, was the true victory. As you watch, think about this. What would you do in Emily's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're moved by this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content.